Welcome to Dial the Cosmos. And for this episode of Dial the Cosmos, we got somebody coming to us all the way from New York. And I've got notes on her because I think it's very important that I get the person and tell you who she is. Now, I want to just tell you what she does. First of all, she's an intuitive healer. You can nod if I'm, or shake if I'm wrong. Yeah. So she's an intuitive healer. She's a channeler. She's a clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient. Got that right in the right order, I hope. A Reiki master. She happens to be a hypnotherapist. Pretty cool. Something I don't really know what this is, an IET practitioner. I know ET, but I don't know the I in front of it. Right. Founder of the Dynasty or Destiny Blueprint program and Consciousness Healers Academy, teaches mindfulness and is just an all-round good person to talk with. So if you don't know who she is by now, you should. But my guest this evening is Janet Namaste. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you, Dominic. So nice to stay here with you, connect with you. It was from the moment when you and I met, it was like lifelong friends from many lifetimes. So thank you for having me.
Well, that's nice. And we will be lifelong friends, because I'm probably going to live another 5-10 minutes. So that's what, that's the British sense of humor when we start talking like that. There's so much about you, isn't there? I mean, I didn't know where to start when I started introducing you because you're into everything and myself, you get involved with a lot of things. You've been very into this world of the esoteric and the spiritual since you were very young. And I think it's a natural part of your progression as a soul that we're talking right now. And my progression as well, because I learned just as much from talking to you, and which is a lovely exchange. I wanted to ask you about the kaleidoscopic grandmother because I looked and I read about your experience when your grandmother passed. She was, a big part of your life before she passed, and you saw her in a kaleidoscopic way. It's a lovely word. I love kaleidoscopic. It says so much. But do you want to just give us a little bit of understanding about that background with you and your grandma and how you saw her after she passed? Because that was quite a connection.
Absolutely. That was, I think I have to go back before before answering that question. So my grandmother was my caretaker. I come from a family of all immigrants from Eastern Europe. And she immigrated from Romania and to the Ukraine, and they lived in a little Jewish ghetto. And my grandfather was from Germany, and when the Nazis took over, they also immigrated to it was a town called Chernivtsi in the Ukraine. So life was tough. They lived in a ghetto, and there was a lot of survival skills, and I think of thinking beyond the five senses of survival skills. I come from a lineage of all healers between my parents and grandparents, and at that moment, especially that generation, even in terms of like money and going to a doctor, people learned how to self-heal utilizing natural methods, and even of energy healing with hands if there was a headache, and all these different kinds of, I think it's like methods that are awakened within the DNA. And when we ask, that message comes through. So fast forward 1975, the last day I was born. And my family immigrated here from Russia, Ukraine, and I was first generation American. And here we are in a little apartment in Brooklyn, New York. And, in this one little apartment, many people lived in there. And whenever people would come and immigrate to the United States, we always had a house full of people. And it was a tiny, tiny, tiny little apartment. I actually lived and slept in a crib until I was 5 years old because they couldn't afford a bed. So I was in a little crib and it kept me anesthetized, cocooned until we moved over the bridge to Staten Island. My grandmother was my caretaker because my parents were working and they were trying to assimilate into the new culture. And there was a tragedy when I was about 19 months old, and she took her own life. And this was something where my mother and I were in the bedroom, and she at that time she lived on the second floor of the apartment building. We lived on the sixth, which was the top, and we heard the key, and I was 19 months old, and this happened before us. You know, she was supposed to go to a doctor that day to get treated for depression. It was difficult, you know, for
Yeah.
so much in the DNA. So that being said, when my mom saw her, she was still alive. She said in Russian, you know, Mama, what did you do? Why did you do this? And she said, I just don't want to be a burden to anyone
Right.
ever. And you know, it was almost like some people think of suicide as such a selfish act, when in reality, she thought it was a selfless act.
Okay.
So, and that moment, as a 19-month-old, I was a very early bloomer. I was walking at 9 months old, apparently, that's what they said. And I was also exposed to many languages. English was my sixth language. So I learned how to translate the language of the heart, the language of the soul. And it really confused me as a child of when people would speak and what was emanating from their heart field there, it was not synonymous. I knew the truth when it felt like the truth, when it was synonymous, and I was able to see, as you say, kaleidoscope of colors, and it would be so beautiful and it would be so harmonious when it felt like the truth and when it's higher vibration. So when that happened at 19 and a half months or 19 months, it was yeah, it was God, I even remember the day. Yeah. It's yeah, it was in September in 1977. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that being said, I started seeing and feeling her through array of colors, and that's where the clairaudience came in, was through what would other people say that you hear voices, or as other people, or maybe some parents would say that their children had imaginary friends. But I started playing with a stuffed animal, true, like this little bear that she had given me, that was my only connection to her. And I would speak through the bear as if I was speaking to her, and I just saw her energy around that little teddy bear. It was a pink bear. And later on, years later, when my mother threw it out, gave it away to charity, I was so angry at her because I felt that that was my connection, when in reality it was just symbolic at that particular age, that it just held the energy field. And that's where I saw, and I started seeing orbs of color around everyone and everything. That's when it first happened. It was after that passing. It was
Okay.
miraculous.
I've got a few questions, as
Yeah,
as you might have thought.
just a few.
Yeah, well, my mind just goes in lots of directions. First thing that I'm thinking about is psychometry, because your
Yes.
your, your grandmother's energy would be on the bear, and so
Mhm.
first of all, that isn't imagination; that's an imprint. That's you feeling the vibration, the frequency of your grandmother through that bear that she had chosen. brought and given to you, and something that was able to connect you both. And the energy of people doesn't change, it stays. I think that the soul grows and the soul can replenish itself. So there's plenty of energy to leave behind, little signatures, little imprints, if you like. And so your grandmother's imprint was there. And that's where I would see that tuning area. The other thing that I think is very interesting that you bring up is the feeling that you sense people,
Mhm.
because languages, you know, when I look at learning Ukrainian, Russian, okay, going into English and then going into something like French or Spanish or Romanian or Hungarian, it is really quite complicated, but not complicated,
Right.
because we all say the same things with our expressions, but we don't use the same words. So when we feel somebody, we really do sense them, and our senses become heightened. And you had the ability to understand that your senses were heightened by your observational skills. So where you couldn't use your ears, your eyes picked up the senses of the words and the feel of the words. And that's why you're so attuned now to people, because you've still got that and it's grown with you as you've grown from a young girl into a lady, into a woman, into a mother, a daughter, all the things that you are now. Your senses would have grown with that. So now you've got that in heightened capability of being able to see people's colors change,
Mhm.
alter, but not only see them change and alter, but feel them. Because I think we feel people far sooner than what we hear them. So when we actually tuned into our senses, now, how important is it for you now in your life right now to have that heightened sense of awareness that is never spoken about but only felt?
It's interesting. It's like it's not even that it's of importance. It's it's my essence. It's something that always was and that will and something that will always be. And it wasn't just of the sense of observation. It was the observation of the colors have frequency associated with it. And it was those frequencies, the, as the level of the volume would go up or low, I felt that in my body and in a physiological standpoint also. So knowing that, like knowing all of that, of how I bring it into my life now, where before I thought I was trying to cover it up, to blend in, to not to humanize my
Sure.
spiritual experience, right? To really
Mm,
3D that, to be a participant of the system. Now it's more of removing the layer or the false perception that there is a facade of limits.
okay.
So, do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, because one of
Mhm.
my ambitions is to teach the world how to see these frequencies. Because once we can teach people to see those frequencies, then we trust automatically. There'll be no deception, there'll be no dishonesty, because we'd be able to see it. So what would happen is I call it the domino effect, or the sort of consequences of knowing these things means that everybody would get on. There would be nobody trying to pull a fast one or say something that was false for their advantage, because we'd be able to read the colors in their voice as they were doing so.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly. It's reading the colors in their voice.
Yeah.
It's reading the colors of even when you look in their eyes. When you look in someone's eyes,
Yeah.
that's the windows of the soul. You know right away they're, not their truth per se, but you know the essence of
Okay.
their love and their capacity to love.
Yes. I'm with you. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
What
I
would
teach that, by the way,
I know.
of
I
healing auras. Like, yeah.
I read up on you. I know what you do. It's it's very interesting what you do, and there's lots and lots of things that we want to talk about. But I want to know what you think the soul is. What do you think it's constructed of?
What a great question.
One of
What a great question.
one of many, I hope.
That's it. Now you have to one up it after this.
Oh, we'll keep going up that ladder. We'll keep winding it up.
Yeah.
That's a promise.
The soul is a particle of source that is unique to you yourself. It is the divine I am, and we are comprised. You and I are speaking here, and every single person on this planet, the billions of people, we are comprised of physicality, of body, of spirit, which is the energy of the divine creator, of source, light, God, and of soul. So, soul is the individual experience of us as family members. There's soul groups, there's soul families, there's and we know our soul brothers and sisters because there's a vibration that we all feel into, that we all vibrate to that. So a soul is the essence of energy consciousness. We're consciousness.
Okay.
It's all consciousness.
Okay.
We're light beings.
Okay.
Mhm.
I get it. So when you heal a person,
Mhm.
are you healing the soul or the physical?
The soul, never the physical.
So you said that without
Never,
hesitation. You didn't even
never,
have to think of that.
never the physical. Because here on planet Earth, it is such, we don't, this is not our home. This is just a school. We come from a place of like the most beautiful, brilliant lights. We come from source. And each of us that have chosen to be on this planet Earth, this school, we're learning through density, and physicality is just this bodysuit that we are wearing at this moment in time, with this amazing cellular system, which made up of 95% of water, and water can be programmed. And our heart, which the energetic frequency of our heart is 300,000 times stronger than the energy of our physical body. So the moment, and I don't do the healing, I'm just the facilitator of the healing. I am just the channel, the vessel, whatever, I don't care what you call me, but it isn't me. I'm the catalyst that helps awaken that the circuitry for the other soul that was contracted to connect. There's no such thing as coincidence, to awaken the healing process. But here on planet Earth, there is, it's light matter. There's Chronos and Kairos time. When we are thinking of certain things here on Earth, it's Chronos time for it to actually appear. That's why healing sometimes, for some people, it takes a long time. And for other people, it could take 18 minutes, depending, you know what I mean? So it's utilizing that Kairos time, but we're connecting to the soul, and the soul knows how to heal. Always. We're love. We're healthy.
Okay. I agree. Let's
Yeah.
double back because you said something very interesting in there. You said we can program water.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that I tell me what you meant by we can program water, and also define what water is for me.
H2O.
All right, smarty.
I'm a pharmacy school dropout. Okay.
I can see why.
Yeah. It's H2O. Like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, water is just we're atomic beings. We're light beings, and we can constantly change. The same energy that this water has is the same thing that when it solidifies, it could go, it when it freezes, ice, or when the air, the earth air can also evaporate. A little particle of a molecule of air has the same energy as this. So our body being lymphatic, blood, it's liquid, and we have cellular systems with such a, like, it's the biology of belief, like epigenetics. We can program our cells right now. In 6 months we could have a brand new healthy liver, in a sense, because but it's reprogramming the coherence of the mind, the heart, and intention and action. When our words, actions, and deeds align, then the destiny will align itself with healing. But some people could be healed, and some people, not every healing and curing are different. I'm going back to water. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Let me come back. Let me pull you back because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's good for me to pull you back. So
Yeah.
let's just paraphrase it.
Yep.
Is water sentient? Is it a intelligent life form?
Yes.
So 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 can we program that intelligent life form to work with us?
1 billion million quadrillion%.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're on that level. Okay.
We're on that level. So
Okay.
many years ago, I had the great privilege of meeting a wonderful Japanese man, Masaru Emoto, and he wrote a book. It was literally of um, God. It had to do with programming water, that we are all energy beings, and our mindset can program the water depending on our thoughts. So I met him at the Kabbalah Center here in New York City, and shortly after he actually passed away. But what he left us all here on planet Earth was the greatest gift of, he did an experiment of how we're all consciousness, and words have energy. We're light beings. We can say certain things and it raises the consciousness. And we
Right.
could say things of that is not the truth, and that lowers the vibration and adds more density. So he did an experiment, and it was about, the power of words and water. And he would program the water with people's thoughts, like think happy thoughts, the word happy, the word love. And they would take the molecular structure of the water, put that droplet underneath the microscope, and see how beautiful these crystals formed. Love had a gorgeous, beautiful, like, crystal, but the words of hate and war and power, like, well, power, like all of these, like,
Yeah.
um
Destructive.
destructive words had a different, like, molecular system under the microscope. So this is like, I feel at this moment in time, it's like we're, science is catching up to spirituality. The bridges from science to spirituality. But he gave us that great blessing of water being this, that we can heal by just our thought forms, and we can do it. He saw it under the microscope.
A little tip that I do myself. I write
Yeah.
love on all my water bottles and put them in the fridge, put them wherever, but I supercharge them with words on the bottles themselves because I feel that's what you actually sustains you. It's what makes you who
Yeah.
you are. 90% water, as you said. So what you're doing is you're drinking love because you're instilling it into the water. I would highly recommend everyone do that. I want the whole world to
Yes.
do that because it'd just be an amazing way of bringing people together. But
Yeah. It's
that
like Starbucks, like, do you have Starbucks in London? Do you have,
star what?
yeah. Okay. Starbucks is a coffee. It's a coffee shop.
Of course
Like,
we have
it's, yeah.
Starbucks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, It's yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
So it's Star Seed Coffee. So oh, that should be our coffee shop that we create together. The Star Seed Coffee Shop, that when we ask people their name, we just put love. Love, here's your mochaccino. Love,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the next business we'll go into.
Be great, wouldn't it? And then we should actually make it organic coffee. So, and then do
Correct.
fair trade, and you get everything lined up in the right energy. You can do
Yes.
anything, can't you? And
Anything.
and this is where the soul, and I come back to the soul again, because
Yes.
I think the soul is pure plasma. Pure
Mhm.
plasma. It's like a little grapefruit full of plasma that can regenerate through the atmosphere, through the universe, through the cosmos. It every time it gives a little bit of itself away, it can regain that little piece. So it's a bit like us when we give away our energy. We go and eat, don't we? We go and have a sandwich, or we go and have an apple, or we have some food. So that replenishes our energy. The soul picks up the energy from the surroundings it finds
Correct.
itself in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's how I believe that we have things like imprints in the world, because everywhere we go, that little basement place, that little flat that you grew up in, where you had 6 stories and you had your grandmother
Hmm.
and all those little rooms with all those people in. Think of all the imprints of the energy in that location. And if you went back, they'd all be there waiting for you to just go and revisit those memories of where you were at that time before you crossed the bridge. So those things are there forever. And I believe that the world is full of energy imprints. And the
Yes.
and the imprints are what we walk through. So if you walk into a room and it's really not very nice energy, you're walking through imprints. If you walk into a location where people have not been kind to one another, it's really difficult energy. So you have to be very careful where you're walking through. And I think that these areas are stored with certain thoughts, memories, deeds, and we are very aware of them. You would be very sensitive to them as well. If you went on the underground, what they call it, the subway in New York,
Correct. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
you're going to feel that energy, aren't you?
Hmm.
So, how do you cope with that in your day to day life, having all those energy imprints that you're walking through, especially somewhere like New York? Because New York is one of my favorite places, because we're going to come on to time slips in a little bit, but it was where the first time slip was ever documented in New York City in Times Square. So, it's such an interesting place to live for you. But for you to be sensitive living in a place like that, there is so much energy, so much stuff going on. How do you manage? How do you order your life living in a place like New York?
I'll tell you something. It's like a soul also has their own particular contract when they come here on planet Earth. So my soul contracted to be born and raised here in New York. And um, as a highly sensitive, attuned empath, it was very difficult because I think so many people are diagnosed wrongly as having anxiety disorder here in New York and where the place where I'm from. And the doctors maybe band-aid it with like, here's this pill, here's this to dissipate the symptoms instead of getting to the root. So the energies, especially that there's so many cultures, there's so much noise. I live 20 minutes away from Manhattan. So in a very quiet area with lots of trees and surround myself with nature. But being an empath, whenever I can't use the subways, not that I can't, I choose not to use the underground because it's too much for me.
Okay.
It's too much for me. But if I have to, I always use visualization exercises prior. There's there's a knowing that of course I'm going to be okay, but at the same time, I feel like as an empath, my sensory systems, I'm like a live wire. So I had to learn at a very young age to set boundaries. So my power is not, that is within me. My life and my light force is not distributed of trying to protect my field and of being overly sensitive. So I visualize always, and this is what I taught my children at a very young age. My children are now 19 and 16 almost, of visualizing white light. First, I balance my chakra utilizing just meditation of visualizing the colors through breath work. And then I visualize white light around my auric field. I make sure that this is energy protection. It's like a spiritual condom, I guess. Like it's you go out there just protecting your field. So around that, I visualize white light, and I make sure that the top of my head and the bottom, the soles of my feet, are all also in this cocoon of light. Around that, if you need extra, I then visualize a mirror. So around that protection field, because now all my energy is within me. So the mirror, and I close my eyes, and through my inner vision, I visualize of what is before me. Okay, here is the light, or not, it's actually my light for the camera. Here is my glass. And I visualize all those pieces. It takes it's like a muscle. You have to every single day exercise for it to get stronger, that visualization. So that reflection is whenever I'm out there because I go to Manhattan at least once or twice a week, whatever is before me, people's thoughts, people's things, and it's not necessarily towards me, it's being reflected back to them.
Okay.
It's just being reflected back to them. That's the way of the energy protection around my aura. But other ways is of grounding I have to ground myself in. And then afterwards, I do take an integration nap afterwards, because it's a lot. It is a lot. But it's a great superpower. Being young, when I was younger, I felt that it was, I used to say, like, why do I have this? Why do I have this? I used to say, I just want to be normal.
Okay. No such word.
No such words.
Can I give you a shortcut to what you've just told me? Because
that's I mean, I do it actually in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, but I can teach you to do it in a second.
Okay. What about 30 seconds? No, not 30 seconds, 0.5 seconds.
We can do it. We can do it instantly if you train
let's
yourself.
do it.
What's your favorite scent? Your favorite smell?
Oh, goodness. Let's say lavender. At this moment, it always changes. Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't matter. It can change. Yep. It can be multi, but let's say lavender right now. Lavender essence on the back of your hand, just a little drop. Okay. You smell it, and it takes you into your guided meditation protection mindset straight away, because you associate that particular practice with lavender.
Yes.
So what you wouldn't have to do is you wouldn't have to go through all the visualization. It happens automatically for you. And the trigger is the scent on the back of your hand. Okay. Now, I can relate to you because I've not gone into crowds for years. I don't like people. I couldn't live in New York City. It just, I'd be in the straitjacket. I'd have to learn to undo buckles and all sorts. Right. So when you're actually able to just put a little bit of scent on your hand and smell it, if you find yourself in a situation where you don't want to be, you can invoke all that protection around you. So you can actually formulate it instantly. So it's akin to you smelling grass when you were a kid, and
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
or a rose and it takes you back, or your little pink bear that you associate. If you saw a little pink bear today, you'd
right.
associate it straight to your grandmother. And it's that association to the smell that helps us
Yes.
create this protection around us that is instant. I use it to travel on planes, on
Mm-hmm.
trains, anywhere where I'm in big groups. If I'm on stage in front of an audience, it's always that little bit of scent. I use eucalyptus because I think it's the highest, tree in the world. It's the tallest trees that we come across, and the Aborigines use eucalyptus as protection. They use the scent. They actually reckon it calls the gods or calls their gods to them, and I find it's such a good part of my life that everyone should know about this, because
Absolutely.
we don't need to. And it will really benefit you, Janet, because when you've got a client, when you're actually healing a client's soul, and you feel them, because you look at them, don't you? And you see that auric field, you see the energies,
Mhm.
you see the venting through the middle aura and through the outer aura, and you see the energy puffing out into the atmosphere. That little smell can protect you against that energy, and then you can seal it by putting your hands in the right place. So
That's
you're
great.
you're protecting, and that way, the work that you do is going to be enhanced because you're going to be in a better place physically. You're not going to
Yeah.
be drained, because I can imagine. You tell me, when you've finished healing, sometimes it's an elation, but it can be very draining if you're doing one after another, because it's the repetitive nature of being able to be around people, and people have their own issues, problems, identities, and we can sense the way that they are, and we can walk into their energy and feel really drained. So it saves us all that. So for you as a healer, do you get this? Do you find that when you're with somebody, that personality starts to leak into the room and you start to feel very, very tired, or very, very unconsciously, aware of what they're thinking? Do you find that happens a lot to you?
Not anymore. And it's interesting how you said about the scent. I just recently I hosted a retreat, and one of the things that I put in their gift bags is I created essential oils with organic oils with their own crystals and that scent. And they were utilizing the oils before every meditation and every energy work that we were doing. And I said, you utilize this oil whenever you want to get back into this essence. So it's so funny that you said that. But for myself, yeah, I have oil here too that I use, but that's something that I think to be more cognizant about, like to be more, to have that intention before. But going back to your question, not anymore. When I've been in this realm, I came out of the energy woo-woo healers closet about 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. So I was one of the, but I was very hush hush and about it, but I still um at first I started with my little basement, one person, two people, three people. Then I started doing these workshops and then speaking, on stages and doing hypno work for hundreds of people with a mic. But with the field, I don't necessarily um, pack my schedule anymore of the one-on-ones anymore the way I used to. It's a
Yeah,
select few, because now as souls, we evolve and grow. And I feel that I needed that experience in my earlier years of feeling how you were saying that sometimes their personality leaks through, but it's their ego that leaks through. It's their fears, it's their apprehensions, it's their, all their restrictions. But now I've learned how to raise the vibrations that I'm not even there. It's like as if I'm on a plane and they're on the freeway. So it's like it doesn't, but
Yeah.
yet the energy, the consciousness goes there. So I'm unaffected in that sense.
Yeah.
The only thing I encompass them with is just pure, unconditional love, but without attachment to what messages and what they do with the messages. Whereas Janet 22 years ago was attached of, I hope that they're doing better. I hope that they're doing, how are you doing? Not that I don't ask them how they are afterwards. I just don't get attached to their results. I know that the intention and the message is very clear and comes from pure love. That's it.
Now, is pure love the only truth in the universe, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The only truth
Truth.
is love,
Yeah.
unconditional love.
Yeah.
Only truth.
We
That's
can't
it.
we can't debate it, can we? We can't spin it. We can't change it.
No.
If we love each other, we love each other. It's just that one thing that is such a small little word
Yeah.
that means such a gigantic connected energy, doesn't it?
It's everything.
It is, isn't it?
Everything.
But to understand it, you have to be limitless and understanding of that limitlessness within you. So once we feel that limitlessness in us, then the love we have hasn't got any restrictions. We don't love someone because they're going to help us. We don't love someone because they're going to buy us pizza. We don't love someone because they're going to let us do what we want. We just love.
No, love is not a transaction.
It's not. And while we're talking about transactions, I want to come back
Mm.
to, because I didn't want you to sort of fastball me over the other side of the conversation here.
I
Because
won't.
I
You.
know it was so good. I wanted to talk about soul contracts because you mentioned soul contracts a little bit before, and I wanted to hear because I'm not really understanding of this. I don't really have a depth of understanding of soul contracts, but I've heard people talk about them. And when I hear people talk, I get curious and then I want to know more. So tell me a little bit about how you see soul contracts, because I'm sure that everyone's asking the same question. Tell us more.
Besides love, I love speaking about soul contracts. It's oh, this is great. So I thought everyone was able to read soul contracts because I was able to translate all these different languages and translate love, like in a sense, I was able to translate the soul contract from a very, very young age. And the way that through my meditations, channelings, deep connection to source, prayer, whenever I do something called, it was the Destiny Blueprint sessions or program, I kind of constructed that in that through the years, that's what it evolved into.
Okay.
Through meditation, I'm able to connect to the agreement of the choices and the destiny and the free will that a person came here or soul came here in human form to experience while on planet Earth, like literally like on this stage that we call life. And as we all know it, and all your listeners, I'm sure we're energetic beings with these chakras that are within us that hold memory of the impressions that we have experienced. Just like you said, you walk into a room and you feel the impressions, the consciousness of the room. And all those things are stored, and all of the visions and the sound, all of our five senses are stored in these chakra systems that are responsible for filtering out of what is not true. But the soul contract is given to us when we are coming in to planet Earth. We're standing online. We're saying we want to come to planet Earth because Earth is like summer school. It is tough. this is the school of hard knocks. Like, we are going to learn through relationships here, relationships with others. That's the way we learn and evolve. So we are standing before a council of elders, or, this council, and they show us, this is the way I see it, a planetarium, if you can picture planetarium, with different colors, with different textures, with different octaves. And you're viewing it because it's basically the tapestry of your previous life to what you are now going to achieve in this life. Now that you know better, you do better. And the contract states the people that, or the souls that you're going to come here to have these experiences to evolve. They're not here to punish us. Every single person is here on this planet Earth to help us evolve. They're all catalysts to love, for us to love deeper, not less, to love more. So these contracts, we see this octave. It comes as music. It could come as different impressions. And this is all in it's an energetic movie that we see. We're visualizing an energetic movie. That now gets encompassed, like, in our 8th chakra. Everybody's soul contracts in their 8th chakra. It is called the soul star. That's what it's called. It's called the soul star. That's why in many religions, and even in the ancient Egyptians, the headdress is very important to keep that covered, because of the connection to that soul contract. It's the connection to source, in a sense. It's all here. So that is being impressed on our soul. Like, that's where our soul contract is in our soul star. We pick the people. It's, you're going to teach me about trust. How am I going to teach you about trust? Well, you're going to betray me. You're going to cheat on me. You're going to steal from me. This is all, and you sign it. You sign it with your energetic soul signature. Here, I'm Janet. Here, you're Dominic. But we have our own soul signature. That's how we know, like, when we meet one another, that it's the soul signature, not just by the name. So we come on this planet Earth. What I see is Archangel Gabriel. That's the messenger. They bring us, we choose our parents to help us grow and evolve. We choose the time, the place, the date, to the minute of where we're going to be born, because that's going to hold the energetic frequency to help us evolve. So then this band of forgetfulness is being put on when we're born. The minute when our mothers push us out, or we come out of the womb, we take our first breath. That's when spirit comes in within us. That's when, so we are now soul, spirit, and body. We have this physical body. That bound of forgetfulness is being put on so we can learn through not cheating. Otherwise, if we remove that, it's like going through life with all of the, like, the cheat sheets, like literally Google this, what's going to happen, or you're like literally like of cheat sheet notes of the shortcuts. We call it here in the United States cliff notes,
Sure.
So or we can call it like the AI of my spiritual movie. Maybe we have that. So that being said, that soul contract is something that we will know 100 billion% will go through. Each person has to go through that. And it isn't punishment. We're here to create heaven on earth. We all incarnated, the whole collective consciousness, everybody on this planet has a contract to be here on this planet at this moment in time to raise the consciousness. But it starts with our own individual contract. and we are the co-creators of our destiny. The way that we have validation of our contract is through snippets of deja vu of like, oh, I was here before, or I had a dream that this was here, and or it's the clairs, it's a knowing, synchronicity, where you think of someone or something, and then it pops up. It's so these are validations that we are on and fulfilling our soul contract, and of certain challenges that we came here. There's an exam. There's an exam of our life, a blessing of our life, a reward, and karma that we bring. This is part of, that's what's written in our soul contract. And what is in our hidden subconscious since we were little boys and girls, little babies, there's something that makes our soul feel alive, that differentiates from other people's soul of lighting up.
Okay.
So that no matter what we're going to go through.
Let me come over to you on a couple of things, because
Yeah.
one day I will share with you, one day, not today, but another day, what my beliefs are, because they have a different feel. But yeah, we'll talk about that at another time. But what happens, right, if someone breaks a contract? Can they live that same life again?
Yes. Yes and no.
Okay.
We have certain virtues that we all came here on this planet Earth. They're the universal laws that no matter what, we're gonna go. It's it's the law, right? It isn't just like a red light means stop. It isn't a suggestion. It's the law. So there is love, there is light, and there is law. Those three things is the only truth. Love, light, and law. That's it. But the law is based on those three, on love and light. So when we break a contract, either we may fulfill it. And you know that you fulfill a contract with someone when it no longer affects you on an emotional level. So for instance, if someone thinks of their ex-partner and there's a sense of bitterness or a sense of regret or a sense of anger or a sense of whatever it may be, but it gives you an emotional spark, then your contract with that person, even if they're not physically in the room with you, is still alive. It's still there, even if they're physically not next to you. You know that you have transcended that exam, that contract, when it feels like neutrality and you just feel unconditional love. Not that, you don't have to go and bake them a pie and bring them flowers and and clean their home. But it's just feeling of neutrality. The same way when Amazon comes to your house and you get a package is the same way that you feel about your ex that may have betrayed you. It's the same neutrality. But so you are going to keep on going through that same reward, like it's a hamster in a wheel cycle with a different person of that same theme. So you cannot necessarily break a contract. It's the theme. It could be a different person with it could be a different person, but it's the same with a different mask, same theme.
So Janet, we can't break contracts.
You cannot break contracts.
So
it's yes. When I say yes and no, it's transcendence in that.
In part 2 of this interview, because we're coming up to the hour now.
Wow.
I tell you, it goes so fast, doesn't it? When we do it. We will debate this at length, because I have so many points of view that I want to share and I want to debate. But if we did that, we'd probably be going into the next day, because there is lots and lots of things that we can open up to. And what I really wanted to do was to get you to talk about how you see it, because how I see it is irrelevant right now, because it's everything that we learn, everything that we understand. There's a part of us that can learn more. or understand more or get a different way. And part of Dial the Cosmos is to be able to open conversations with people like yourself, Janet, who are able to have their own opinions about what it is to have a soul contract, what it is to stand in front of the Council of Elders, and who are the Council of Elders. Yeah, but do you see where all this would lead to?
Yes, yes.
It's an intriguing conversation, isn't it? And I'm sure that people are screaming at me now, Dom, ask her about the Council of Elders. But if I did that, it would just be way into the distance and we'd just be here all night. So I will hold that one until part two, when we
Yes,
come back and we can talk about it. And I'll share with you some of my understandings within that whole area so we can have a very balanced debate about what happens. And it's only a debate, it's only opinion after all, isn't it? Because
of
we
course.
only, and opening conversations allows us to do this. So I'm always appreciative. It's always lovely to do so. So before I ask you your last question, I want you to tell the listeners where they can find you and anything that you're doing, your website, the courses you run, the healing you do, the things you teach. Yeah, gosh, you've got 5 minutes if you want to talk about everything, but there's so much you do, and I sort of see how much you do. So just say it in your own words of what you do and how people can find you.
So my signature program is the Destiny Blueprint program, and that's where we do go into the soul contract. We speak about free will. We go into the essence of who you are, past lives. So that is the signature program. And then not many years ago, but maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, I opened up a school for conscious healers. It's a global school for anyone that wants to reawaken the healer inside of them and to pay it forward. So I offer resources and we learn things like Reiki and intuitive knowledge and energy healing and numerology and so many courses of even connecting to angels. I also teach numerology and how to connect with angels and chromotherapy. I have many of those courses. So what I did is during when it was the pandemic, I started doing a lot of these monthly vibes free offerings, and I still do that on Raw Real Talks and on Instagram on janetnamaste.com or Instagram janet.namaste. But I have something called a Soul Star membership as well, where I come on live twice a month. We do healings, transmissions. I bring in global healers from around the world. And it's a beautiful community that is very sacred. It's very safe. And people get to be and speak their truth with love. So many things that I do. I also teach a Stanford University mindfulness program for corporate in school system and private, that I do that a couple of times a year. So that helps you get unstuck. Basically, it's based on the hero's journey. So there's some things that are super woo-woo and there's some things that are very tangible. So I meet you to wherever you are, and that's it. So, and you can find me on janetnamaste.com. And I also have a podcast that I bring on people like you and other high vibrational, beautiful humans on that. And that's also called the Janet Namaste, the podcast, and YouTube. But you can find me anywhere on social. And I'll always respond.
I will put these in the notes of the show.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
so if you're listening and you haven't had the chance to take down this information, know that you can go on to the notes in the podcast provider, and it's all there. And it's going to be a long list, isn't it? So I have to remember every single thing. So there's a lot to put in those notes. I know you're an extremely busy lady and you love what you do. You're very soul connected into the work that you do, and everything's a piece of you, isn't it? It's a
Yeah.
joy. Everything comes with joy and love and happiness and all this sort of facilitation that is real rather than stuff that is just forced. So if you're into stuff that is actually very real and very honest and comes from the right energetic level, get in touch with Janet, because she'll be able to help you along your road in your journey. And we need to talk so much more. But,
Yes.
but unfortunately, I've got the last question, which I always ask every guest that comes on the show. And it's a little bit about you. You know, it sort of reveals a little piece of you that you wouldn't normally reveal if I didn't ask it. So, what was the last piece of music that you listened to?
You really want to know?
Oh, I wouldn't ask.
Oh, good. But I was in the car with my son, and it's like it was hip hop, you know?
Okay, so
Yeah,
fantastic.
so it
Energetic.
was, yeah, it was Wu-Tang Clan. Like that's like this is I live in Staten Island, and it was we were listening to hip hop like in the car. So
Okay.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Do you
Yep.
like hip hop? Yeah, is it one of
I
your
love
favorites?
house. I love all kinds of music. Oh my God. I love dancing. I love music. I love house music, pop music, disco music. But I like old hip hop. I like when like old school hip hop. Like it's like this, what they're listening to now is too much for me.
Yeah.
It's very angry hip hop to me. And
Okay.
I don't like, yeah, it's too
So,
much.
so who would you choose to listen to if I said to you, come on and chat, let's go and listen to your favorite music right now? What will we put on the iTunes?
I think it's house music. I
And
think it's like even like music is the answer by DJ Danny Teneglia. It's house music. I
okay.
would, yeah, yeah.
So
Music
that,
is the answer and love is the answer.
well, if you think about music, it goes all the way back to the shamans and the drums and trance,
Yep.
and everything's connected into that beat. And that's all
Yep.
we actually have with this music of modern day. Well, when I say modern day music, music
Hmm.
goes back as old as the earth. But the fact is, we have these really strong drum beats, even in
Yep.
house music, in rap music. We have the same feel that the shamans would try to induce to contact their ancestors. That's what
Yeah.
they would do. They would spin, chant, and drum. And
I love percussion. Love it. Yeah.
what do we see our children doing? We see them spin, chanting, and drumming.
Yeah.
It's a natural thing that we do. We might call it lots of different things, but it connects everyone in the same energy because everyone loves music.
Yes. So
Yeah,
true.
it is,
So
isn't
true.
it? Well, Janet, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been really lovely. I know time goes so fast, doesn't it? When we're doing this, it just flies by. And I'm always very conscious that people have an hour journey in their car. So they normally have an hour to listen. And if we go over, they have to listen the next day. So it's very conscious about people's journey time and their particular sections of their life. But I've really enjoyed our chat. I'm sure we'll come back and we'll discuss soul contracts and other things because I'm sure we've got lots in common and lots of things we can learn from one another. But until next time, thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Dominic. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Completely honored. Thank you.